kind of pontificating about what the future fight is and what it looks like and how we can affect it and how you can affect it and all that kind of good stuff. So really a light topic. Definitely don't need to navigate any kind of classification issues or sensitivities or anything.
No. Everybody's going to find it super interesting. Actually, we're doing this for 2 fans. I can't wait to see both of your responses in the comment section. The reason that we're doing it, guys, gals, cones and quitters, is because listen, we get a lot of questions that if you just understood kind of like the picture, right? If you understand the bigger overarching picture of what it is that we do in the military and how, AFSOC works, you wouldn't have as many questions. The silly questions like, am I going to get to kick indoors, or am I going to be there in the future fight? Like, you say these things, it's not really well defined, right? Like the future fight, like what are we talking about? We're talking about the next conflict. We're talking about what are we going to do? Where do we think we're going to go on the world stage? These things have 10-year timelines. You guys hit us up in the comments and you're like, well, where's SR going to be in the future fight? What about combat control in the future fight? If you can't define those terms and you don't really know what you're talking about, well, then you're going to have a problem answering your own question. And that's always the goal here, is to get you to answer your own questions, because you all annoy us with your constant questions. That's a joke. That's a joke.
Golly, relax. It's a joke.
Relax. Easy. It's a joke. So Peaches, for you, when we say the future fight and we want to start talking about like, hey, what are we actually planning for? What does the next conflict look at? Like 30,000 foot view. What are we planning for the next conflict?
So, I mean, we always have plans, right? They're like the Pentagon and certain combatant commands, they already have, strategic level plans that are very, very, very classified and not touching that at all. But it's the kind of what we're planning for and what we're training for is the unknown, because we don't know where the next conflict is. We have ideas. We pay attention to skirmishes, in different locations. We pay attention to, political hostilities and coups and all that kind of stuff. All the time, I don't know for sure, but we probably had an idea that the whole Ukrainian invasion was going to happen. Probably. I mean, I'm not in the intel community, but
yeah, probably in 2014 when we replaced their government with one that was more amenable to us. But I mean, we probably knew then, but not, anyway.
Different podcast. Probably not this one.
Right. But but to your point, like we've been tracking those things, Ukraine specifically, like we've been tracking, those things. If you think that we just started like partnering with Ukraine out of nowhere and we're like, oh, hey, what's going on? No, we've been doing exercises with Ukraine for 20 years, 15 years.
So we're doing a lot of the training based off of that, but also for the unknown, because that kind of goes into the whole, physical fitness, general preparedness. I'm just training for life. I'm not training for one specific event, except for if you are training for the pipeline, you should be training for the pipeline. But that's, again, a different podcast. So the way we kind of structure stuff, at least in my kind of realm right now, is we look at a couple different areas and a couple different assets that are out there, like different types of planes and different types of terrain and threat environments and anti-aircraft stuff and that kind of thing. And we train and fight against that. And then we kind of reset, and then we will train against that threat now. And we don't, we will do easier threats, but that doesn't really do us much good. Right? If we're not training for the most difficult threat, then when we do see and engage with that threat, we're going to have a greater loss of life and a greater loss of resources and assets. So kind of we're training for the toughest fight. And I'm not going to, I won't name a country that we're shooting for, but you can probably, we're training against our peer adversaries, our pacing challenges, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the important. We don't have to name any country. You can call it country X, because we've been doing this really since the beginning of modern warfare. What we're doing is we're taking country X with system Y that can cause us harm, whether it's a surface-to-air missile, whether it's some sort of new airborne platform, whether it's a new unit that they're using on the ground with TTPs that can defeat ours. The only thing that we're doing is we're trying to figure out, okay, most likely scenario, if we go head-to-head with this asset, with this threat, with this adversary, and then most deadly. What can they do that can deny us our ability to mass forces, to make actual tactical movements, to do all these things, right? So it's a little bit of wargaming, and it's a whole lot of trying to figure out exactly how to defeat those systems in real time, right? There's a difference between a bunch of really smart PhDs sitting in a room and going, oh no, we could totally do it by doing this, and then getting that solution into the hands of the operator in the field that can actually make it happen. So this may seem like a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't matter to AFSPEC or it matters to you that's training for the pipeline, but just we'll feed you baby birds. Just follow this little string, because we're going to go all the way down into the weeds to get to where you are.
But it's not just training for like a no kid and kinetic fight, though.
Right.
It is training for, there's HATRs, there's Humanitarian Aid and Disaster Relief. That's what HATR stands for, folks. Boy, I sure hope I got that acronym right. That is correct.
I love the second guessing. I love the oh no. Oh, did I get this right?
I may have just messed that up. Anyway, so it could be things like that. We will. That's why we have the JSETs, the Joint Combined Exchange Training, and why we hold exercises sometimes in the U.S. And it's not because to train to take over the U.S., but like if you use Hurricane Katrina as an example, or any of the flooding that's been happening here in Vegas, up in Mount Charleston, right?
Mm-hmm.
The National Guard went in there to get people out because the flooding has been so bad here, and that is Katrina. We practice those things stateside, but also in other countries with other countries, because we're going to be helping them out. So it's training to that kind of level as well. So could you call that a future fight? No, but it's in a future incident or future event that you need to be prepared for, because the military is going to get called in on nearly everything. And when I say military, I mean National Guard as well. That is the total force that we can get called to go do that kind of stuff.
Right. So when you see a lot of these changes happen, right? So when you see, we removed, dive school from the combat control pipeline, or, we decided that we're not going to do as much focus on we're still going to produce JTACs, but there's not the need for JTACs. So we're not going to have as many JTACs floating around. We're going to focus more on global access. When you see that, you're like, oh man, this is dumb. We don't even know what we're doing. That came from maybe 10 years of study of what it is that we need to do to evolve as a force. That came with a long tail of people making decisions of this is the way that we're going. In the midstream, like Peaches is saying, you have these things that pop off, these avalanche rescues, you have hurricanes, you have earthquakes that happen. Like, people forget that when the earthquake hit San Francisco out in California in the 80s, the Moffat dudes showed up to that bad boy. PJ showed up to that for confined space rescue. And, we were at Hurricane Katrina for everything. We went down to Haiti and, the Fukushima nuclear reactor,
Mm-hmm.
Special Tactics responded to that bad boy and got that airfield open back up. So as these things happen midstream, those are just kind of like folded in to our overall preparedness of where we're going. And you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about working with partner forces too. America can't, and in my personal opinion, shouldn't be everywhere in the world policing everything all the time. There should be a whole coalition of partners. Now, they might not be as capable. Those partners should have to, hold their own for a little bit, but they should be able to hold their own for a little bit until, if they need our assistance, we can come in there and help them out. But just like we talked about in the Soft Truths, check out the Soft Truth series. We went, Soft Truth 1 through 5. This is sort of like the same thing. Like, you can't make those relationships happen after an incident has occurred. You can't hope that they're just going to be okay. You have to back that up with training, and you have to back that up. A plan has to evolve and say, okay, this country, like, let's say, country X is right next to country Y. Country Y is a bad actor. Country Y is somebody that is, not in line with world stability. Easiest way to put it. Well, you have to get to country X and you have to say, hey, what happens if these guys come over here? What happens if there's a mass casualty that you guys have to deal with? What happens if there's a natural disaster that puts you at a disadvantaged position? It's in our best interest to help country X. So we're going to go and we're going to exercise with country X and help them out and help them figure out exactly what it is that they need to do to protect their own borders, protect their own people, make sure that they're okay, because in the end, it benefits everybody.
Yep. Yeah. And I I don't think you're going to find, like, if we're going to use disaster and humanitarian aid, I don't think you're going to find anybody that's saying we shouldn't have gone into Fukushima to help out, or Pakistan during the earthquake, or Haiti, or anything. I don't think so. I mean, maybe there's probably some out there, but I mean, that's a righteous cause, going and doing that. And to your point about, the actual future fighting and training and that kind of stuff. I mean, that is why we have the J sets. That's why we have your red flags. Yeah, there are some, for folks that out there, a flag is called an exercise, or we call an exercise a flag, at least on the Air Force side of the house. And there's green flags, red flags. The most famous one's probably red flag, but and sometimes it's U.S. only, sometimes it's a whole bunch of countries that they're focusing on a certain part of the world and that kind of stuff. So, like, these training events and these training exchanges are always happening, just to ensure that everybody's staying kind of sharp and everybody's sharing information and tactics, techniques, and procedures.
Yeah, for sure. What was the best exercise you ever went on?
Oh boy. Well, the best named exercise.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say name, not for you, but named exercise for the folks out there. A named exercise means that it has a name, and it's got a different funding stream and a different desired learning objectives, that kind of stuff. It was definitely one of the ones in Norway, probably. Cold response.
Yeah, cold response.
Yeah, it's huge. It's amazing. Partly because it's in Norway, right? Which is an amazing country, amazing people. But we did a lot, and when we were over in England together, just on island. With the Brits, German KSK, like they were great. Like, there's so many of them now, especially after 24 years.
Mm-hmm. Exactly,
there's a lot of them.
I think Jackalstone for me was a really, really good one. So we did just a bunch of fun stuff. So we did a ram jump. So it's RAMB now, rigging alternate method boat. But back in the day, they were called rams drops. But we did a rams drop into the Adriatic Sea. So that was great. The strongest operator on the face of the planet, Nick. I watched him slip and fall to his back holding 55 horsepower engine, and it just landed on him. He just kind of shook it off. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Of course he did.
Of course. Yeah.
She was like, "Hey, picks this up. You mind taking this for me, brother?"
hey, brother. The other funny one, I was going through my fast rope master upgrade. So I was doing a training item. So I had to be very regimented in the way, my hand signals, everything that I was doing. And we're doing a bunch of iterations. We're on a 47. And I remember J-Mac was actually instructing me. It was hilarious. But I just remember, I would clap my hands twice and I'd be like, "Hey," and then I would pass the, get everybody's eyes on me and then pass the whatever. Well, it became very, very methodical. Well, I'm teaching a whole bunch of other nations soft. They may not speak English, but they knew how to make fun of the instructor. So it became this thing where I would clap twice and I would say, "Hey," and then they would clap twice and they would go, "Hey. What?" And then I would give them my time call. It got to be really, really funny. It made it for one of the funniest training events. J-Mac and I were laughing really, really hard by the end of it. The other thing that they were doing, there was a call sign there, and there's a funnier back part of this story that I will not talk out loud because the funnier back part of the story is slightly classified or slightly sensitive, I guess. There was an aircraft, and the call sign was Beast 19, right? It says Beast 19. We're ready for pickup. Well, we were cycling through, picking up these, sister nation, soft dudes. And one of the European guys couldn't pronounce beast. He kept calling it Beef 19. And Beef 19, we're ready for pickup. Beef, you can come in, pick up us now. It was hilarious because the pilot was not having it. He would correct him every single time on the microphone. He'd be like, "Yes, this is Beast copies. We're gonna come get you. A beast is on the way." Be like, "Okay, Beef, thank you." I can't say for sure, but I was pretty positive by the end that guy was doing it on purpose.
Oh, for sure.
Excuse me, beef, come pick us up now. It was the funniest thing of all time. But we learned a lot on Jackalstone. That was awesome, tooling around with those guys, working with the Polish Grom. Some of their snipers were ridiculous, like absolutely ridiculous.
They're jumpers too.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I remember, like, you want to talk about just fun kind of things, is something sensitive kind of politically, clacks off, right? And then we, like, because when we were Mildenhall, we were almost always on some kind of alert window, and so we went over to Poland for like a week or two and just jumped our asses off. That was our only job. Just go over there, jump, work with the Polish Grom, and these dudes, and it was bad weather. It was winter time, and these dudes would 1,000 feet, bad weather, right in the clouds. They're like, "I'm gonna get out of here," and it sounds crazy to think about. Like, somebody just goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna get out here," but they had the ramp down, starting at like 1,000 feet, just to go up, just to see where there would be holes in the weather, and they were over, and they're like, "Yeah, this is good. This is good. I'm just going to get out," and just fucking disappears. It's like, holy shit, dude! Come on.
My favorite story about that is we were in Norway and we were gonna do a free fall jump. So you and I got to do the static line jump on the frozen lake, which is pretty sweet. But there was a free fall jump that was supposed to go off too, and the Norwegians were super amped up about having an American jump master do it. So they wanted CA to do it. So they have slightly different rules, right? So we're talking about it, and he's like, he looked outside. I mean, it's wintertime in Norway, and he looks at the sky. He's like, there's no way that you're going to be able to see anything. There's no, we're going to fly up to negative 50 ambient temperature at 10,000 feet for us to open a door and look out and see that there's nothing but a cloud deck. And they're like, well, no, our regulations say that we can jump as long as we have a working GPS and that the cloud cover isn't under 3,000 feet. Those are their regulations, right? So he's like, okay, well, we can't do that. We have to see the PI. And it was funny because one of the Norwegian jump masters looked at him and was like, do you not trust your instruments? Do you not trust the GPS and the airplane and the people on the ground with the radios that'll tell you that it is okay? and he's just like, listen, it's the regulation. So we all go up with him to jump anyway. And so he's gonna JM their thing. He opens the door and it is just solid clouds. Like, you cannot see anything. The plane was flying above the clouds, but at like 5,000 feet, there was just this thick layer of clouds, like absolute blanket. You could not see anything. So, he's given all the time signals. He's communicating with the aircraft. These guys have these rucks that they stand up, full speed, like full stance. These things are like 2 inches off the ground. All they have to do is kind of like relax their shoulders, and the rucks are sitting on the ground. So, like, in order for them to walk, they just like stand up as tall as they can and then waddle to the back of the ramp. So the green light comes on where they're over. CA does his last check, and he looks out and he looks at the guy. Like, the GPS is on. The aircraft, they've got good comms with the ground. Everything's good, but he can't see anything. So the Norwegians are super excited, like chomping at the bit, like, yeah, baby, let's go. He gave the funniest jump master go. Like, normally, the jump master goes are very like to your left shoulder, and then you point out the door, looking at the green light, only the green light, holding it there until the green light is on. Blah blah blah. He like looked out. He looked at the clouds. He looked at the first jumper. He's like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess go. And they just bounced, and it was fine. They they get out, they open up under canopy where they're supposed to. They land on their intended target. It was great. Like, those guys were professionals too. But
that's what they're used to, though.
Yeah,
right. Because
exactly,
if they waited for perfect weather in Norway to jump, they would never jump. Yeah. So it's a forcing mechanism for them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But hilarious. Just the absolute, just a shoulder shrug. Just like, I mean,
yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
If you want to go.